I think we're just going to go live like that. And we still don't have an intro. We got to get an intro. I'm Eric Crocker. Of course, I'm joined by my guy, Greg Panelli, quarterback guru, the extraordinaire. And we got a guest tonight, Tyler Bray, played at University of Tennessee, coming from California to the SEC. I can't wait to ask about that. Obviously played several years in the NFL under Andy Reid. You played under Nagy. And, of course, your San Francisco 49ers Kyle Shanahan, so I can't wait to get the insight on just kind of the dynamics of the quarterback room, how Kyle Shanahan is, the offense, and really what kind of goes into player development. I got some questions about a lot of that. But before I continue to ramble on, Greg, Tyler, man, how y'all doing?
I'm good, man. Everything's good. I'm glad that we finally got Tyler on. I think it's going to be good to hear a different opinion on quarterbacks and kind of the life in the NFL from somebody else rather than just a trainer that's hanging out with the guys in the off season. So it'll be
With
good.
with a cool mustache.
Exactly. Yep.
It's all about the stash.
It's all about the stash. So, man, Tyler, I got to ask you first, and this is our first time interacting, but man, what's it like coming from California? And I'm assuming you're from the Central Valley because I see you were born in Clovis, and you go all the way to Tennessee. So you played in the SEC, and I tell people, me, I'm from Stockton, California, and I'm out here in Arkansas, and that's kind of the heart of SEC in the sense of just how they feel about their Razorbacks. But I feel like it's almost a different world. Like, did you have that same experience going from California and playing for Tennessee?
Yes, the South is very football god family in that order.
Yeah.
I mean, they'd sell body parts to buy tickets to games. That's how crazy it is out there. But
Nah, seriously.
Lane Kiffin recruited me. Went to Elite 11 camp. Had Fresno State offer me. It was kind of just offer me because I'm the local guy. Didn't really have intentions of going there. Wanted to, but it wasn't going to be an opportunity to compete. And so I wanted to go somewhere I can compete for the starting job as a freshman and play right away. And so I committed to San Diego State. Told them, hey, if I get an offer I can't refuse, I'm going to have to decommit and commit to that school. And they kind of just were like, yeah, whatever, because everyone kind of had their commits already. Well, the Elite 11 camp comes around, and second day maybe, Bob Johnson, who was running it back then, brings me aside and goes, hey, someone's on the phone for you. I want you to go in this van. And so I go in the van. I'm like, hey, this is Tyler. And hey, this is Lane Kiffin. Bob said you're a good quarterback. We watched a little bit of your film. We'd like to offer you a scholarship.
Wow.
Never
Just like that from Elite 11.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah,
also, I mean, disclosure, you are 6'6". So,
yeah.
I mean, just, seeing you in person, I'm pretty sure they're like, man, this big ass kid from California probably has a big arm, and all that. So the aesthetics of it probably looked right as well, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I look like a Tootsie Pop almost. Had a big old head, 6'6", raggedy hair, 186 pounds maybe, if that. And yeah, I was just slinging it around. No real didn't have Greg at the time, so I was kind of out there just, I had a high school quarterback coach. He knew his stuff, but we really didn't work on any footwork. It was just kind of go out there and just be you. And so that's what I did and ended up working.
So obviously you went from the SEC in Tennessee to the NFL, and you started off with the Kansas City Chiefs. So what was that jump like going from SEC, obviously playing big time ball there, but now you're under Andy Reid, and everybody talks about how the NFL is so much faster. What were some of your first kind of thoughts when facing an NFL defense, playing in preseason games and kind of seeing a different speed? Was it something that was shocking, or you're like, man, this is almost like the SEC?
I mean, the speed's kind of similar. I think I got in trouble for saying that in an interview too when I was there. But the speed's the same. I mean, it's not like the guys going from Alabama running a 4.3 and then going to the pros and running a 4.1, 4.0. Like, the guy's the same speed. Yeah. It's just in the NFL, everybody knows what they're supposed to be. They study film. It's a lot different than college where guys are just going out there and, reacting and just playing. I mean, guys are studying their film. They know when you line up in certain splits, certain 3x1, 2x2, 1x3, whatever it may be, they know what plays you're going to run. And so it's them anticipating more than the speed. they anticipate a lot more. They're a lot faster with anticipation. And so, I mean, if you sit there and hold the ball a tenth of a second longer than you should, it's a pick.
That's tough, and I know that's probably a tough transition for especially a guy like Trey Lance, and we'll get into him and kind of going from North Dakota State. Obviously, that's FCS level, and you talked about kind of not studying film and kind of the defenses, especially I bet at the SEC level, much faster than what he saw at North Dakota State, and again, just that transition to the NFL. We'll get into that, but I want to ask you, because obviously you spent some time with the 49ers, and one thing that you just touched on, you talked about like the feet and the timing, and I've heard a whole lot of JT Sullivan just now breaking down Justin Fields, and one thing he kept harping on was his feet, tying his feet to his throws, and he was talking about tying his feet to the left. But then when he broke down Trey Lance, it was almost, I don't want to say the opposite, but it was like, he took an extra step here and he did this and then like that. So what goes into like the development of that, like getting the feet right, especially for a guy you talked about holding on to the ball a tenth of a second too long? Justin Fields in his first start, he got sacked 9 times. So, he had 1 net passing yard. So this wasn't something that he came to the NFL and was like, okay, I'm just ready-made and I'm back here and my feet are right. It seems like it's something that he kind of had to continue to work on. Trey Lance, it seems like he's in kind of maybe the infant stages of that. So when it comes to like footwork and time to throws, like how important is that?
That's very important. I know with Shanahan's offense, timing is everything. They do a lot of play action, a lot of nakeds, a lot of, plays where they set it up with a run and come back and get you. But it's all, I mean, you see press, could be 5, a slower 5 with a hitch. You see off, it might be a quick 5 with a quick hitch or a quick 5 and a plant. There's just every play has a certain footwork tied to it. And depending on if you're getting free access or press, you might have to slow it down, and you have to know that. Because the last thing you want to do is be too slow, and then you're getting the guy killed over the middle. It's the worst thing that could happen.
Right. And, everybody talks about Kyle Shanahan being like this big time stickler. Like, is that what you got from him, or was he kind of like cool and relaxed? Because he comes off as, I don't want to say not an asshole, but somebody that's very, very specific in the sense of it has to be done this way. Is that how he comes off in person?
No, he's actually very chill. He's probably I don't want to say coolest. He was the most chill coach I played for, though. Very laid back. Now, he'd get on your ass. Don't get me wrong. Like, if you aren't doing what you need to do, he's going to ride you. But he does it because he knows if he does it and he lets, a split, hey, you're supposed to take a +2 split. Oh, but you were +4. And now the route's timing's messed up. And the defender now sits inside because you're a wide split, and they know most of the time you're not going to, run anything breaking hard inside or breaking hard outside. They kind of just sit and they just wait for you to run something short.
All right, so now we're going to ask a little bit more of the hard-hitting questions here. Obviously, the 49ers, they just gave Jimmy Garoppolo this, they restructured his contract. And they were saying, hey, we didn't expect him to be available. They said, hey, don't even get a playbook. Don't even come to training camp. You're not going to do anything like that. We expect to trade him. The market kind of dried up for him. There was no kind of open spots. His agent went out and it was like, well, there's nothing quite out there for him in the sense of money, and the 49ers were able to give him a deal. He took a huge pay cut to stay with the 49ers. But what was that dynamic like between, or just, Jimmy Garoppolo? Because people, they've been saying that he comes off as a person that doesn't respond to text messages or calls. But when they asked Trey Lance about him, he's like, dude, like, you guys try to pin us against each other, but that was somebody that was really cool. And he really worked to help me a lot. Did you get that sense of like there wasn't any awkwardness when it was almost like very awkward out there, like in the media and stuff?
It's all, I don't want to say clickbait, but it's all, everyone's getting paid off of views. And so the room was great. I was only in the room for a week and then got COVID. And so I wasn't able to be there for in the room for the last 2 weeks, but the week and a half I was there, they were great together. We're all professionals, or they're all professionals. And so they know what they got to do. They're not going to sit there and try to, sabotage a player and hurt the team. I mean, it doesn't look good. Coaches talk, players talk. They'll find out the real you. But the whole time I was there, the QB room was great.
When you look at Trey Lance, and again, we're talking about somebody coming from FCS level, and everybody talks about, kind of the rawness. And talk to us a little bit about exactly what that means, because I think on social media, people throw it out there, and they really have no idea what they're talking about. They might say something like, "Oh, his arm motion is a little loopy," or and then you hear other people kind of break certain things down. But through your eyes, and you say, "Okay, I see this guy in kind of the infant stages of his NFL career, and really just kind of quarterbacking." Right? He played 1 year at FCS level, and that's the only experience he has really playing live since high school. So when you see him now, hey, like, dude, you're the third overall pick, and okay, you have some talent, but how hard of a jump is it to get to where, okay, you can function in the NFL offense? Because to me, it seems like that's a little bit more difficult. And again, talk about the speed and timing and everything, and what Kyle Shanahan is actually asking of him. So when you look at Trey Lance, what things do you say, you know what, he needs to work on X, Y, Z, or he just needs to work on everything?
It's just getting reps. I mean, he didn't play a lot in college. What did he play? 13 games or something like that?
Right. It was like 17 total. It was like 17 total.
That's not a lot of college games. And so the reps weren't there. New offense. He's coming in. Most colleges run no huddle, hand signals. You're not in the huddle much, having to, call a play, break, come out, see the defense. You're kind of lined up on the ball, kind of fake snap, look at the coach. Okay, coach is giving me a man beater. Okay, I know it's man type of deal. They tell you what's going on, where you only have a certain amount of time in the headset just to get the play out. And Shanahan's offense is very wordy, so they're using all that time to just try to get the play in. And now he's having to go from trying to get that wordy play out, breaking the huddle. Okay, what's going on? Are my guys lined up? Okay, they're lined up. Okay, now what's the defense in? And you're already down to maybe 10 seconds on the shot clock. I mean, so he just needs reps. The biggest thing for rookie quarterbacks, a lot of them like to get thrown into the fire, and it's tough. I mean, the college game and the NFL game are two separate things. The speed of players isn't really different, but the way they react and do everything is. I had a GM tell me, he goes, in college you play the game, in the pros you learn it. And it stuck with me through my career, because I was like, through college, I mean, you could have got me up on a whiteboard and been like, hey, draw cover 2 with a 40 front, and what plays do you like? And I would have struggled just to draw the front, the defense, not even worried about the offensive side, just the defensive side. I mean, nowadays kids are wired a little different. I mean, everyone's got a QB coach. They go through these plans, and it helps them prepare to get to college, and they're already ready for that. Where I wasn't. I mean, I was watching film after a Friday night game, and I'm just like, can we get this over with? Like, we're gonna win every game. Can we just please get out of here? Like, you're kind of wasting my Saturday type of deal. And so I just think with Trey, the more reps he gets, the more comfortable he gets with Shanahan's offense, the better he'll be.
And how hard is that in the sense of getting ready for an actual season, right? Because that's the big thing. Oh, he's not ready. He's not ready. And I'm always assuming people are saying, well, he's not ready to take a team to a championship. And right now, I know you were in the building. That's kind of 49ers expectations. Like, they don't have time for your ups and downs. And I think that's why so many people are, I don't want to say as hard on him as they are, but just in the sense of like what the expectations of that team is. So with somebody who has kind of this newness to the position for the most part and has all these expectations, how does Kyle Shanahan formulate an offense that can fit someone like Trey Lance?
I think the offense Shanahan has, he fits pretty well with it. They do some of the read option stuff he's good at. The under center stuff he's good at. Play action, it helps him out a lot. Cleans up the pocket. His biggest thing will just be not holding onto the ball and just sitting back there and trying to extend plays that can't be extended.
Right.
I always say don't make a bad play worse. And so the last thing he needs to do is sit back there and try to make every play a great play. There's going to be plays where throwing the ball away is a really good play.
Yeah.
And it's tough for young guys to, do that, because in college they were able to juke everybody out, get out of the pocket and find somebody open. Where in the NFL, those DNs are faster than most quarterbacks are. I mean, you have DNs running 4.4s now. Like, that wasn't like that back in the day. And so the game's evolving, and I think as a young guy, the more reps he gets, the better he'll be.
We got some questions here, and I'm going to get to this one here. It says, to me, long wind-up release mechanics, handcuff Trey in a tight pocket or when moving up in the pocket. Let's say that's the case. How do you improve on that? Because, and I talked to Greg, and maybe this is an answer or a question for you, Greg. Trying to kind of tighten up or quicken the hands to make this type of throw. I might be saying it all wrong, but you get what I'm trying to say. How do you fix that?
I think it's going back to the drawing board, and you work those things without a pass rush first. It might be one of those drills in practice where you got a coach pushing off the edge, giving you outside pressure, or some A gap, backside C gap pressure where you got to push up and then dump the ball off quickly, or dump the ball off and get quick hands. Wet ball mechanics, sometimes we call it, where you kind of just lift the ball and get it out. And that's something that we talked about with Trey on some of the shorter throws, where I think Jimmy excelled immensely. He's top 5 in the league as far as getting the ball out of his hands. So I think the longer windup, obviously that's something that quarterback coaches, especially at the next level or in the college level, have always talked about. This windup is too long. It's too long. Now, when you get guys coming off the edge and you get pressure and things get tight in the pocket where you're essentially throwing out of a phone booth, and you go up in the pocket and you get long, now you got guys reaching around the edge, trying to strip the ball out, knock the ball out of your hands, whatever it may be. So I think it's something that you can work in practice, and then you try and build it up into game-like situations where it's team offense or whatever it may be. But it's just working different circumstances, different types of throws, whether it's like those flash screens where you're catching the ball and throwing a sidearm, or you're going a little bit more of a top change in arm angles. And I think that's something that Tyler could probably attest to, that they probably work on those things at the next level. But that's definitely something that we do in the off season when we're training. And I'll let him take over and kind of talk about that. And maybe that conversation happens in the quarterback room at the next level. But I know it's something that we experience in college, sometimes at the high school level, but definitely in college. And I'm sure that these guys experience that in the NFL with those types of coaches.
Yeah, Tyler Bray, I do have a question for you, because I remember my experience in the NFL, and maybe it was just because I was an undrafted guy, but there wasn't a whole lot of developing that went into me. It's like, man, you show up, like, you got to be able to play. For the most part with them, the developing was more of a mental thing. So with you, with these quarterbacks, or, kind of your experience and what you've seen, how much developing of young quarterbacks is like mechanics while in the season, during the year? Or is it, this is something we work on more so in the off season?
I think it's more of an off season thing. I think trying to change, it'd be tough for him to try to change his throwing mechanics in the middle of the season or right at the start of the season. Like right now, it'd be tough for him. I mean, he's been throwing that way his whole life. And so it's tough to have a guy who mentally is locked on how he throws the ball, and to try to change that. He might be able to do it in practice, but it's hard to transition not getting rushed and being live and then going into a game and trying to take it there. Because you're going to revert back to your old ways. I know Greg's tried to work with me with my little leg kick, and I had a big looping leg kick like I was a pitcher. And it was tough trying to break that, because I would get into practice, and as soon as bullets start flying, it's just, not survival mode, but you're back there. You're not really thinking, hey, don't bring that big, looping leg over. You're just throwing the ball. And so it's going to be tough for him to try to change that, during the season.
And somebody commented here, I see it. It's like trying to change have you ever made a change to your golf swing during a match? And, that I think is more relatable to people. It's when you get into a game, like Tyler said, it's not something you're thinking about. You're thinking about, okay, are they showing one high? Are they too high? What's the front? Who's blitzing off the edge? Do I make sure I got my guys lined up in the right positions? I got to get the snap off. Am I going to call a timeout right now? Is coach yelling at me from the sidelines? Is the protection set you're not even thinking about, oh, shit, I was working with Tom House this offseason, so I got to make sure that I don't drop the ball down too. None of that is even crossing your mind. At the end of the day, you just got to roll with what you got. And that's really what got you there at the end of the day. And Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch drafted Trey Lance knowing what they had in his mechanics, knowing that it was probably going to be a pain in the ass to fix, but they liked it enough to draft him, whether it was going to be changed or not. And that's what you got to go with. And I think that people got to realize, like, yes, it's going to be tough to change the mechanics. Could it be done? Possibly. But they liked him for what he showed at his pro day, what he showed on the college film. And that's probably what you're going to expect, along with obviously learning a little bit more and more each and every year. But they took him for what he had, and they liked it enough to draft him. And I think that that's what they probably expect. And we'll continue to see him grow as he learns the offense, gets confident, gets the reps, whatever it may be. But the mechanic stuff at some point or another is just going to have to go out the window, and Trey's just going to play ball.
It kind of reminds me of when, with me, right? And like, it was not like I was any type of blazer or anything like that. I ran in the mid 4.5s, so I wasn't like this guy that just ran fast. But I had to perfect being slow, right? Like being able to play the cornerback position and run with guys while not being fast. So, you learn how to kind of work around some of the things that are a little bit harder to change. Is that kind of like that for a quarterback who, all right, maybe my release is I have a little bit more of a wind up. I mean, that was a big issue, or I don't want to say issue, but a lot of people pointed that out with Justin Fields, and I talked about him a little bit earlier. It's not like he shortened up his throwing motion, but he's throwing BBs out there. So it doesn't even matter, right? So it's like, if the ball goes where you want it to go, how much does it matter if your release is a little bit longer?
I don't think it necessarily matters that much. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago with the Peyton Manning thing, right? And being able to anticipate. Peyton Manning didn't throw the football 65 miles an hour, right? There's proof that he does not throw the ball he didn't throw the ball like Brett Favre. Was he a very accurate passer? Absolutely. But he learned to anticipate and learned how to throw with what he had, right? And I think Trey worked on a lot of footwork this offseason. I think that was probably the main focus, from my understanding, with Tom House, trying to speed up his feet to get him in a position to throw sooner and be on time with it. And that would help compensate with a little bit more of the arm stuff and trying to get his front foot down quicker. That's going to speed up his arm. But everybody always, we're going to have to get the tape. We got to
don't make me call Brett right now. I'll call Brett right now live.
Brett is, of course, Brett's going to back you because he was a former DB getting torched just like you.
Oh, torched? Now, I'm not going to lie. VA hit me up a couple times. I'm not gonna lie.
I know. Trust me. He was it's just not a one-sided story here. You make this so one-sided, like I was just this trash dude at JC.
No, dude, you're not trash because I was picking you off. Like, I was good.
You probably got me, 2 times in a year? Maybe.
Oh, no. I feel like you leaving out a couple. Give or take a couple.
All right. I'll give you a couple.
I'd say more.
In a year. But, hey, I'm just saying. Anyways, we'll get the tape.
Can I talk about, okay, so off the top of my head, I know for sure once. And I remember how I did it. All right. So I got to talk about this and get people to understand, like, this is what was going through my head. Look, Coach Andrew. So what we're talking about right now, Modesto Junior College. Y'all see the chair behind me. Pirates, throw that out the gym. All right. But me and Donald. All right. But so we're playing at Modesto Junior College. My DB coach, Coach Drew, great guy. He didn't really teach me like technique though. Right. And it kind of set me up for failure a little bit when I got to the university. They're like, what the fuck? Like, how are you playing? And it's like, dude, they didn't teach me how to play. They just said, do what works for you. And it was working, right? But anyways, so we got a cover 2 on. And I know if I show the quarterback, and this is part of it too, when you face your team all the time in practice, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I kind of not know exactly what's coming, but I know some of the things, what it looks like. And I'm like, I think they're trying to do this right now, right? Because I've seen it 100 times. And I saw a little tip, so I said, okay, we got cover 2 on. If I show that I'm down, he's going to throw that smash route, that corner. on the smash.
So
I would show Greg I'm down. So he, and give him that clear picture, the picture he wants to see. He wants to see me down so he can throw that corner route behind me. And as soon as he raised that arm up, I'm going to get it.
I remember it. I literally remember it too. And that's the only one that I remember. You did. You got me. You did that. And you know who was really good at doing that? And this might be more relatable to these guys, especially because the Niners played cover 3 or the Seahawks played a little bit at cover 3. Is Richard Sherman was a pro at that shit, where he would, especially in 3, where most times in cover 3, the corner is bailing out to the deep third and number 2 outside, whether that's a nickel or the strong safety or the outside linebacker is going to cover the flats. And Sherman always did a good job at baiting people low, and he would bail late. And he would do that in the 2 look and the 3 look. He was a pro at doing that 4 look. He did it all the time, and he always tested people. And yeah, you got my ass on that one. So we're going to find the film, though. We'll put you on at some point one day, Crock.
Were you the type of DB, though, like if it was an overthrown ball, like you did the whole, like...
Oh, that was every time bullshit.
No, I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm the worst.
He was the worst.
Because that's like I hate that the most out of anything is a DB literally did nothing. Quarterback, like we make a bad throw, and you guys act like you're all Madden team and did something, and no one touched the ball, just thrown out of bounds, and you're just over there, talking shit to everybody.
If I overthrew it, I was trash. The receiver was trash. The offense was trash. Was loaded. 99 rating on Madden. Everybody else was trash that day.
Hey, Coach Stivers could not stand me. Because I was gonna let him have it. I was gonna let everybody have it. And that, Greg was his baby. So when I get to talking, and one time he told me, like, you can take that back to Stockton. You get out of here. Like he wanted to kick me out of there. It's like, bro, you're not my coach. My coach is DB coach.
Oh man, I love it.
Dang, I just had a question. Oh, so Tyler, a lot of people are kind of new in here. We got over 250 people in here. Real quick, we got Tyler Bray with us. Played for the Kansas City Chiefs from 2013 to 2017. Played with the Chicago Bears from 2018 to 2020. And was with the San Francisco 49ers on practice squad for a little bit. You were there for Mahomes' rookie year, right?
Yes, that was my
last year. So Mahomes was a guy who was definitely polarizing coming out. And hold on, we should show the Niners go after. Oh, okay. We'll get to this question, 49er Laker. We'll get to that. I'll start. But Mahomes was someone who was definitely polarizing coming out. I got this tweet out there, and I was like, dude, out of all the quarterbacks in this class, like, he looks like he has the most special stuff. He has the most upside. And it was hard to tell because of the offense that he came out of. But I was watching him, and I'm like, I don't think people are supposed to be able to do this. It was like rolling, then he just flick a ball, and it's like on the perfect spot in the back of the end zone. So when he showed up, you've heard kind of different things, because I remember hearing Tyreek Hill say something about, like, man, this is who y'all took in the first round. So I don't know if it was like bad at the start, then got better, or it was always great, or he just showed flashes. But what were some of the things that you saw early on with Mahomes where it's like, all right, like, this is a dude?
I mean, first day he was there throwing the ball, you knew he was special. I mean, we had watched, they had that in the makings for probably 2 years prior, a year to 2 years prior. Like, they knew they were getting Mahomes. Like, that was their goal.
Oh, wow.
And so they ended up getting him. He comes in, and right away you could tell he had an unbelievable and special arm talent. Like, it was nothing. I mean, I thought I had a strong arm, and then he came in, and I was like, wow, that's insane. Like, he was, I mean, rolling to the left, throwing back to the right, 50 yards, and it's like, how do you do that? Because when you look at him, I mean, he doesn't look like, he's not a physical specimen.
Right.
He's not that jacked guy that you're like, okay, he works out. He works out. I'm saying, like, he's not that bodybuilder type dude that you could be like, oh yeah, I could see why he throws the ball that far. There's something. He was just built different.
So what went into kind of getting him ready, right? Because that was something where you got Alex Smith. Alex Smith had clearly played well. And you were there with Alex Smith, right? So you maybe saw like, there's like a certain level where it's like, he is a good quarterback. And maybe some people kind of underrate some of the things that Alex Smith was able to do, or some of the things that he did extremely well. And I know that last year, I want to say Mahomes' rookie year, that was like Alex Smith's like best year, right? But how good was Alex Smith for Mahomes and just kind of the process of like helping him along and saying, all right, we got to get this kid ready? Or was he like, hell no, man, like I'm not helping you? But it sounds like he was a great teammate.
Yeah, Alex is one of the best teammates I've had. It's not necessarily he went out of his way to help him, but he didn't do anything to try to prevent him from, taking his spot. Like, he wasn't going to sabotage Pat. Alex has been in the game. He's too nice of a guy to do that. But it's not his job to help Pat. And who was it that said it? Tannehill?
It was, Ryan Tannehill.
And people thought he was being, an asshole about it. But no, he gets paid to be the starting quarterback. That's his job. His job's not to sit there and take care of the rookie. That's what they pay the coaches for. And that's all he was trying to get across. And everyone thinks, he's being a jerk about it. But that's is what it is. But Alex, I mean, they kind of had they had Mike Kafka, who would work with Mahomes on the side, going over, the ins and outs of the offense, trying to help him mentally prepare. Because Alex is a genius. I mean, the guy's so smart. And so he didn't need, the off to the side help. And we're trying to game plan and stuff like that. And Mahomes would meet with Kafka, and they would go over stuff he liked, and they would make game plans for stuff he knew. Because as a rookie trying to learn Andy Reid's offense or Kyle Shanahan's whoever offense, it's tough. And the guys that get thrown into the fire struggle most of the time because the learning curve is so wide. I mean, it's so difficult to learn offense. And it took me probably 2.5, 3 years to be comfortable with Andy Reid's offense.
Wow. How difficult can that, when you're, you just want to go out there and play, right? You talked about, and obviously we know the size, 6'6", and, big guy out there, big arm, but it's like, damn, do you almost feel like you have like one hand tied behind your back trying to play and put out the best version of you because you're thinking so much?
Yeah, I mean, the game moves really fast when you don't know it mentally. It's weird when it finally clicked, when Andy Reid's offense finally clicked, the game slowed down. It didn't become like easier, but it sort of did, because you knew where guys were supposed to be. You knew, protections. You knew you were protected, so you don't have to worry about, oh crap, at the end I missed, sliding the defense to the left or sliding the O-line to the left, pick up that blitz, and now I got to try to roll and make something happen. You feel comfortable, everything slows down, and it becomes, I guess, easier to play the game.
I don't even want to say a question, but I got a question out of this. So we got my guy 49 Bloodlines, and he says, Crock still living in fantasy land, gumdrops and rainbows. He thinks Trey and Jimmy are holding hands, skipping down. So basically what he's saying is, with this new setup, I guess, between, with Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, how much of a help do you think Jimmy Garoppolo will voluntarily be for Trey Lance? Do you think it'd be like kind of like the dynamic like you talked about with Alex Smith, where it's like, look, I'm not going to sabotage a kid, but like he has a coach. Brian Greasy's his quarterback coach. Or do you see Jimmy as the person that does go out of his way a little bit more to help a young guy out?
I mean, he's definitely not going to go to Trey's house and go over the playbook with him.
Okay.
But I mean, if they're in the QB room together and they're meeting, and Jimmy sees something, he's going to tell him. I mean, I'm sure that's how it works around the league. Every QB room I've been in, the backup has always helped the starters. It's how it is. I mean, it's a business, so I get that part of it. Everybody wants to be paid what they think they should be paid. But once you're in that room, money's not talked about. It doesn't matter anymore. You're all there for the same goal, and that's to hold that trophy at the end of the year.
Right. So you guys watch football. I know Greg definitely does. What young guys around the league are intriguing to you? I mean, I know there was like this big kind of dynamic between Mac Jones and Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, and some of these guys. So are there any young guys kind of you maybe seeing coming in or that's intriguing? I know you kind of are a free agent right now, so maybe you didn't have time to watch some of these other guys. But has there been anybody where maybe you've just been on the field and you see a guy across the way and you're like, man, this guy's kind of special? It could be young. It could be maybe a veteran, maybe an experience watching maybe Tom Brady up close, like whatever it is. Was it something you've seen like while being there on the field and just noticed like, okay, this guy's a little different?
Aaron Rodgers for sure. I think To me, he's probably the top QB in the league. As far as like just playing the QB position, I'm not talking about wins, losses, any of that. I'm talking at the QB position. The stuff he does it's incredible. It's fun to watch. I got to see him live twice a year for 3 years. And it was every time there was a play in the game where you're just like, how in the hell did he make that throw? Guys holding on to him, and he's off his back foot, flipping it left to the back of the end zone and hitting Devontae Adams. Actually, now that I bring up Devontae, I'd like to see how his stats compare going from Rodgers to Crock. That's interesting because
I always felt like, and again, nothing against Devontae. I think he's great. Like you watch him, he has like these subtleties to his game that I can definitely appreciate as a cornerback. Little half steps, things he does to get the cornerback to kind of stop their feet, and then he goes. It's just like he's like a master of understanding how to manipulate and play off of the cornerback to where he can use some of these things as to his advantage. I think that's awesome. But I say all that to say, when watching Aaron Rodgers, it's very clear. There's sometimes Devontae Adams is running, and it's like, dude, all you got to do is just stick your hands out, and the ball's just going to float, right? It's like Aaron Rodgers throws like the most catchable ball. Like, it has zip, but it's just like super, like, tight spiral, catchable, and it looks like it has zip, but it's like soft somehow. I don't know. It's really crazy. I've never seen anything like it. Why do you think that it hasn't materialized into like more championships? Because that's what people are knocking Aaron Rodgers for. I think he's great. I think he's one of the greatest quarterbacks I've seen, clearly. And people say, oh, well, he wins a lot of games, but he can't win the big one. Can you talk about a little bit how difficult it actually is to win the big one? Because I know probably your whole time with Kansas City, they were going to the playoffs.
Yeah, I think 4 out of the 5 years, Alex took us to the playoffs. And so, I mean, we never made it truly far enough into the playoffs. I guess we did, yeah. We did make it. Was it championship was the Patriots? I can't remember. But it's Rodgers' problem is with the organization, and that's why he had that big feud with them in the offseason, because they don't give him guys. He doesn't have, the Tyreek Hills. I mean, Devontae turned into the Devontae Adams we see today, but he didn't. I mean, it wasn't like he came out and was that dude. I mean, he built over time, but he's never had that. They've never gone out in free agency and been like, hey, let's go get Tyreek Hill. Let's go get that number 1 guy. Let's go get him some O-line help. They just kind of, got another D end.
Got another quarterback.
Hey, you're an MVP talent, but we're gonna go get a first round quarterback. And so it's just they knew what they had in Rodgers. They knew what the offense would be regardless who they got around, and so they didn't want to waste money on putting better players around him.
Yeah, that's tough. And clearly he's been like extremely upset with that. And he's almost pulling a Brett Favre now. And I remember when I was younger, Brett Favre, he was almost like holding the Packers hostage. And they were trying to figure out, like, how do we get rid of this guy so we can start playing this young guy that we drafted 3 years ago? I just have a couple more questions for you. And Greg, you can answer this. Tyler, you can answer this as well. Learning to play with anticipation. How hard of a skill is that? Is that something that some people just have this innate ability to be able to do it, or is that something that can be learned?
I'll go from my perspective, both playing and I guess trying to teach it as well. I think the biggest thing for me and for other quarterbacks is confidence in the receivers and building that trust with your receivers, building your confidence within the playbook, and understanding what the defense is throwing at you, right? So if I know that Eric Crocker is playing cover 3 where they're going to move around a lot and the safeties are going to do this, that, and the other thing, and I know that at the end of the day it's going to be cover 3, and we have a route that's a cover 3 beat. Let's say it's a bang 8, right? That I can hit my 5th step in the drop and throw that ball with anticipation, understanding that all of the stars are aligning for that particular route or for that particular play. But the toughest thing I think with anticipation probably at the next level is not being confident or getting fooled post-snap where things don't necessarily work out for you and you're not trusting it, or you not necessarily trusting the line or the protection or whatever it may be. So I think all of that comes together within the playbook. And I think that's, going from my freshman year in college to by the time I was done, you've played enough, you've relied enough on your arm or your abilities or your talent, whatever it may be. And I think that you're not as scared to make mistakes. So I think guys as rookies or as younger dudes in the NFL are a little bit more hesitant to make those mistakes. So they wait a split second longer for somebody to actually pop open rather than throwing that ball before they're even looking at you, or making sure that they're running the right option or choice route. And you might be a half second late on it. So the difference between that, doing it from a quarterback perspective, and then trying to train for it, it's really tough to train for it, especially when you don't have a defense that you're throwing against, because guys are getting pressed on the line of scrimmage versus when you're actually running routes on the field or in a training session. It's all free releases, right? So, and some guys will do their thing at the line of scrimmage and then get off and go. But, trying to make sure the dudes are throwing it on time, feet in the ground, and then repping that over and over, and then trying to get that to happen in one-on-ones or in 7-on-7, and then eventually in a team. I think just the reps over and over, and then experience throughout the games, and trusting yourself and trusting the offense. But he can attest to it a little bit more, obviously, at the next level.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it on the head. I mean, it's tough for young guys to do it because they aren't comfortable with an offense yet. And so they want to see the guy open rather than throw him open. Where a guy like Rodgers, he knows the offense like the back of his hand. He knows, hey, we've repped this so many times. That guy's going to be there when I hit my fifth step or when I hitch up. That guy's going to be to that spot I needed to be. And you can play with more anticipation when you know your guys around you are going to be where they need to be.
We got somebody here. I think they said they know you got N.R. Monier says that Tyler Bray. I seen him play here in Berg. I'm from. I don't even know what this stuff means. What?
The Berg is Kingsburg.
Okay.
One of the best in the Central Valley.
All right.
Just beat Sunnyside 49-9.
Sunnyside. That was my
That's all
old high school.
Crock the other day. Sunnyside. Crock's been his freshman year at Sunnyside before he went back to the 209 over there at Tokay High School.
Yeah, the real 209, because I don't know where you from. I don't know, but
There's no winning.
You said what?
There's no winning.
Nah, definitely not. Not when you're from Newman. I mean, you guys got like what, 20 people in your town?
10,000.
Okay.
Where Kingsburg's at? Keep talking.
Here we go. Would you? Who should the Niners go after that was released, waived from other teams? I appreciate the contribution here. That's a question I'd have to look and see, who was kind of released. The one thing about NFL, and you guys can attest to this as well, especially you, Tyler, after the touchdowns, there's not really a whole lot of space on the team, right? Like you kind of have your 53, and then there might be one or two guys that maybe they end up being like late releases, and then maybe they bring a couple guys in. But for the most part, after they do their 53, it's almost kind of set a little bit, right? At least for the start of the season. And then obviously throughout the year, man, shit's scary. I mean, they're bringing in guys every Tuesday to work out and really just guys to kind of take your spot when you're kind of not good like me. But yeah, I appreciate the contribution. Appreciate this contribution too. Then you didn't even want nothing. You just wanted to leave a $5 tip. I appreciate that.
Niner gang.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions here in the chat? Are we going to get off here? Hold on. We get better.
Mark said, can you ask Tyler if the Bears field conditions are as bad as they talk about, like the media? Because it looks terrible. And I've obviously never been to Soldier Field, but it just looks long. The grass looks like high school grass.
Why does it look like that? It looked really bad the other. I mean, they zoomed in on it, and I was like, dang, it looked like people just been running all over it.
It's because the team doesn't own it, so the team doesn't take care of it. The city does.
Oh, so they damn near got city park grass.
But is the grass pretty long? Is it the longest grass?
I think that's how it works. I mean, because I think I was explained to me that way, anyways. But it's long, yeah. It's not a great field to play on, especially if you're a throwing team. And it's, snowing outside, it's one of the worst fields to play on. But Bears have always been a defensive set team. They're traditionally, they got that stud middle linebacker, and they want to play defense. And so it's the perfect field for them. They get you. It's like when Bears played the Rams a couple years ago. The Rams were all the hype. They had Gurley. They didn't want to play. You saw it. We saw it in warmups. They didn't want to be out there. It was way too cold. They have the sunny LA, all that, and they got to come to Chicago. It's snowing. It's cold. Gurley didn't want to run the ball. He got hit a couple times and was done for the day.
Yeah, now he played football in the South, and it's like, I don't know, we got weird weather here, but it's like still warm in November. Here's a question, and maybe Tyler, you can answer this. You think this locker room is more confident with Trey? Feel like most would want to run it back with Jimmy and not go through growing pains. From a professional perspective, can you talk about how I think there's a difference between how the players look at things and how fans look at it, right? Because fans is like, this upside and things like that. But players are more so like thinking in the now, right? Like, what's going to help me right now? Like, if I'm Deebo Samuel, it's like, why would I want to change quarterbacks? And I don't want you to put words in Deebo Samuel's mouth or anything. But like, if I'm Deebo, like, dude, I just had an 1,800-yard season, total yards, but like, receiving and rushing with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. Why would I want to go away from that? Do you think that's more people's thought process at the NFL level?
I think it's more of whoever the starter is, the team just kind of builds around it. I don't think they truly care. I mean, they always have their guys. There's always cliques in the locker room, but they want to win. And so whoever the coaches decide to put out there, if they're winning, all for it. But when they start losing, you get those looks, you get those, side talks. I mean, people are, hey, why isn't he playing? Why is he not playing? He's been balling in practice. He's balled before. Why isn't he playing? And so it's gonna be a weird situation this year with the Niners. Because I mean, Jimmy fits perfect for that offense. He's a prototypical Shanahan quarterback. Quick release, good with the play action, can move, is mobile enough to, gain a couple yards if he needs to for a scramble, and is going to throw everything on time and knows the offense. And so it's one of those things where, I mean, I'm sure they're going to have some, bumps in the road, but the 49ers have a good offense. They have a good defense. They got a good team built around Trey. They just need Trey to go out there and not be a game manager, but not go out there and lose the game. He doesn't need to sit it there, try to throw the ball 30, 40 times a game and throw for, a million yards. He just needs to do what Kyle wants him to run in the offense. If it's, hey, we need you to throw, a 5-yard route 30 times today. Okay, we're going to throw a 5-yard route 30 times today. Obviously, Kyle saw something that he liked, and that's what we're going to do. As long as he stays within Shanahan's game plan, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, and that's something that, I kind of bring up with my time with the Jets. And, you have Mark Sanchez there. Different dynamic, right? I mean, they went to back-to-back AFC championships to start Mark Sanchez's career. But by the time I showed up, they were coming off of 2 not very good years. And boom, they draft a guy by the name of Geno Smith in the second round. And now all of a sudden Geno is like, there's Mark Sanchez. And it was a quarterback battle. Like, it was a competition, but I don't even remember anybody talking about it. Like, I don't even think it felt like nobody cared that there was a competition going on over there. It's like, that's what they do. I have to do my job. I have to do what I'm supposed to do, and I can't worry about who is at the quarterback position. Do you think that's kind of more of guys' mindset, where it's like, all right, like, now veterans might have a little bit more say or might be a little bit more opinionated, but for the most part, it's guys doing a job, right? And it's like, I got to make sure I do my job first and foremost.
Yeah, you got to worry about what you control. I mean, as a defensive player, you're not going to sit there. You don't care who the quarterback is, as long as they don't turn it over and make you go from, getting off the field to through a pick on first down or second down. Now we got to go back out there and you're tired. And so it just all depends.
Got Knees here. He says, why is the media acting like Jimmy is Montana breathing down Trey's neck? They act like the 49ers can't afford rookie mistakes, but Jimmy is mistake prone. Greg, you could talk to this, because I know we've talked a lot about Jimmy Garoppolo, and there's a lot of things that you like about his game. What do you think the main reason is, in the sense of them being able to win with Jimmy Garoppolo, but maybe not so much because of Jimmy. But like, what does he do? Because I always talk about this. Like, dude, there's things he does that contributes to a game. I'm not sure exactly. Like, I can't put my finger on it, but there's like, it's something.
Yeah.
What is that something to you?
He's always had that something. Jimmy's the guy that's you hate him when shit goes south, but you really like him when things go well, right? It's never like this. It's almost like this, there's never this in between, and it's like he's the first person that gets bashed, but then he's one that's like, oh, Jimmy did well today. Maybe he went 20 for 27 with 2 touchdowns, and he didn't throw a pick or whatever. Maybe he threw a pick, they got tipped, or it was a shitty pick, whatever it may be, but they won the game by 2 touchdowns. Nobody ever looks to Jimmy like, dude, you won us the game. But then you go back and look, like I said, and we've talked about this before, Jimmy came into the 49ers when the 49ers were trash. And this is coming from a 49er fan. They were down it was a dumpster fire. Like,
it was
guys
bad.
who we had coaching.
I turned the game off. The 49ers were playing, was it 2017? They were playing the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo, and they were getting their ass kicked. I mean, just getting drugged. And it was like 3rd and 30. And I think Buffalo handed it off to like LaShawn McCoy or something, and he ran for like 32 yards. And I turned my TV off. I said, I'm not watching this shit.
Right.
So they were a dumpster fire when he showed up.
You go from Chip Kelly comes in, they give him the bag, right? And that was a shit show. You had Tom Sula, shit show, right? So it wasn't a good vibe. Shanahan comes in, the team's not very well put together. We're going through these ups and downs. Jimmy comes in, boom, things change. 5-0. They got to pay him because you can't go right back to the stuff that we came from. So you got to pay the dude because somebody else was going to pay him. As soon as they let him off that roster, somebody else was paying him, right? Gets hurt. They go to the NFC Championship game, the Super Bowl the next year. And then he gets hurt again, right? Then this past year he's healthy for the most part, and they end up going to the NFC Championship game. So I think Jimmy's showing his capabilities to win games, whether he's playing at his best or not. And I think that's the difference between a lot of dudes. Like, usually when quarterbacks aren't playing at their best, the teams are going to end up losing games. It seems like 9 times out of 10, right? Jimmy doesn't always have to play his best, but there's just, like you said, there's something about him that he brings. But from Shanahan's offense, he gets the ball quickly. He's great in the play action game. We know it's not like you don't know what he's got. Shanahan knew what he's got and knew his limitations and worked within those limitations, and they won games. And I think obviously having Trey there, you don't have those limitations anymore. But as we talked about, you're getting a young guy that's coming in with a bunch of dudes that are playing in their prime right now. So it's that safety net. Okay, if Trey just is not clicking right now and we start out a little bit slower, or Trey goes down, whatever it may be, we got a guy that we can literally plug and play, and we know we can win games with right now. We don't have to maybe sit here and battle it out with the Brock Purdy situation or whatever and just pray and hope that we're just going to get through the next 3 or 4 games or 2 games until Trey comes back. God forbid he goes down. But I also think that it's going to be interesting to see how short the leash is.
I was just going to ask you that.
Now that Jimmy's back, is it a situation where maybe Trey's kind of shit in the bed? I hope he doesn't. Obviously, I want success for him and I want success for the 49ers, but maybe he shits the bed here. Hey, or maybe he's doing something. Sorry, my dog's going off.
You're good.
Maybe that they're seeing something they don't like, and they're going to plug Jimmy in for a bit and see how it plays out. I don't think that's probably going to be the best idea, just because that's going to cause a lot of chaos.
Well, okay, so I want to ask you, like, obviously, you worked a lot with Josh Allen. You talk to Josh Allen all the time, and his rookie year wasn't great. Like, I've said it before. I remember sending you videos like, bro, what the fuck is this? And I'm laughing at this like wild looking pass, right? So how difficult would it have been for Josh Allen if, all right, I got this opportunity, like I'm playing, I need this experience, like I just need to play, I'm trying to figure out this offense, this defense, and then they're like, we're not winning as many games as we would like, so we're just going to yank you. How difficult or how detrimental would that have been to the development of Josh Allen?
I think Well, I think that would, from a confidence perspective, I am not. I haven't been in that particular situation, but I think that it would. It depends on how the guy's built from a mental perspective. But I think the
Yeah.
difference between Josh and where Trey's at is Josh came into a team that they were losing to the Patriots every year, right? You're coming in third or sometimes fourth in the AFC East. Trey is stepping into a situation where this team is ready to rock and roll in a win now mode, going to the NFC Championship twice in the last 3 years, going to a Super Bowl, and you just signed guys that are now in their prime. So I think the leash kind of necessarily has to be shorter. These guys in the Niners can't wait around for the Trey screw ups over and over. And it's going to happen. And like I said, I hope that it doesn't happen as much because I really want him to have success. But they can't sit around and wait 5, 6, 7 games and let the season just go into basically go into the trash can while you're waiting for Trey to develop when you have a team that is arguably one of the best in the NFC and could go back to the NFC Championship or could go back to the Super Bowl. So I think that safety net, having Jimmy behind him, God forbid, you got to plug and play him, and we know that we can go back there with Jimmy. I think that changes the whole tone versus having a guy that necessarily or hasn't necessarily been in that situation, like a backup, like a rookie quarterback or whatever it may be.
Yeah, and we've seen that.
Carson Wentz and Foles.
You said Winston Foles?
Yeah.
Carson Wentz and Foles.
Right. And I was going to say, we saw that with like Tua, right? Where there was Tua and there was Ryan Fitzpatrick. Now, obviously, Ryan Fitzpatrick, it's not like he had all this success with the Miami Dolphins, but it was clear he was the more quote unquote ready quarterback at that time. And it's like, hey, we're trying to develop Tua, but we want to win games. So remember, games started looking a little weird. Then it's like, put in Fitzpatrick. So they put in Fitz at the end of a game. He closed out a game. And then next thing you know, okay, Tua's back in the next game starting. And then they're like, this looks a little weird. Okay, let's pull him out. Let's put Fitzpatrick back in. That has to be a little tough, right, for a quarterback who's trying to learn. But it feels to me like Tua has kind of made it out of that. And now it's like, well, yeah, this is my team now.
Yeah, I think so. And when you asked earlier what younger guys are you kind of watching out for in the league or excited about or whatever, and I wouldn't say necessarily excited about, but I'm very curious on what's going to happen with the Tua situation with the team that they built around him, especially obviously Tyreek Hill's the big time receiver, the big time name that they got in this past offseason. They have obviously the Niners offensive coordinator that's now there. Was it Mike McDaniels, right? Is that what it is? Mike McDaniels? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have him there now, and obviously Tyler got to hang out with him last year. He's a brain on offense. I think that he's going to put Tua in really good situations. And I'll let Tyler talk about Coach McDaniel just being around him, but I think that he is going to set him up for a lot of success. He's going to bring a lot of that Shanahan vibe. I think he's going to take a little bit more pressure off of Tua, and obviously play action, run game, build a little bit more West Coast-ish for him, and let him build some confidence earlier in the season with the guys that he's got around him.
Yeah, what was he like? Because everybody talks about McDaniel and is like he's like a little genius or something. But he seems hella cool. Like he seems down to earth and is almost. I heard him talking one time about just you're either gonna get the job done or you're not, and it was kind of like that was just kind of the vibe of him. But what did you see from him?
Yeah, I didn't really know anything about him coming into it, and I didn't know he was a coach. I thought he was kind of an analytics guy when I first, was in a meeting with him. I didn't know, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know anything really about the 49ers. I got called randomly. I was kind of already done with NFL, and they're like, hey, come try out. And so I ended up getting on the team. So my first time meeting him, I thought he was an analytics guy, and then you hear him speak, and you're like, oh, shit, this guy knows what he's talking about. And the more I was around him, the way he carried himself, very swaggy, very confident. And the more I was around him, I was like, this guy's that dude. Like, you could tell Kyle was grooming him, kind of like what Andy Reid does with his coaches. A lot of these head coaches have the guys their right-hand man, their offensive coordinator, or whatever it might be, and they're grooming them to be the next head coach at some other team. And you could tell just from a couple days I was – in the building that he was that guy.
Yeah, that's a guy that everybody likes. Here we go. This will be the last question, and then we'll get out here because we're approaching an hour long right now. Jimmy's strength has always been his ability to hit the wide receivers in stride, which leads to yards after catch. He does not get enough credit for that. Trey must get better in the short game. So not necessarily a question, but just in the sense of making the Kyle Shanahan offense go. And some of the things that you saw, I know you weren't there that long, but was a lot of it, you think, just predicated on just being able to hit the layup throws, right? And like some of these throws underneath, and then, all right, play action, and then you got your big hitters, right? Is that kind of what you saw?
It's more of staying within Shanahan's offense. That's why, when the Niners are rolling, it's because Jimmy, he's not going out there and trying to play outside of the offense. He's sticking to the game plan. He's doing what Kyle wants, and they're, moving the ball and winning ball games. And the games they struggle are games when, they're trying to force a ball or trying to do too much, and then they struggle. But if they just stick within Kyle's offense, I mean, there's going to be guys open. I mean, I sat there and watched it for 3 weeks. I mean, you're sitting there and you're just like, I don't know how he does it, but he dials up play after play after play, and it's just positive yards every play.
And this would be my last question now. Preseason. A lot of people talk about preseason and, kind of what it looks like, but in terms of like game planning, like how, in comparison, I guess if you'd say from, 0 to 10 game planning for a preseason as opposed to regular season, what do you think the difference is? Like, where are they at in preseason as far as game planning, and then compared to like a regular season game?
It's kind of just a lot of basics. So like your day one install that you're like giving to the rookies is basically what you're running in preseason. Like you're not getting shots dialed up. Like there's not a lot of home run plays. Like it's a lot of, we're going to run 4 verts here, or we're going to throw a post, or it's not a lot of big time game planning going on. I mean, most of the time the last preseason, I don't know what it's like now with how the preseason set up, but the 4th game, it's normally your backup will start or maybe not even play, and it's your 3rd and 4th guys that are, taking the game, while the 1st and 2nd team guys during the week are prepping game 1. So it's I mean, not a lot of thoughts going in. I don't want to say not a lot of thought, but they're not stressing about game planning for that specific team. They're more working towards week 1 when, the wins and losses stay there for the year.
All right.
I mean, the Ravens have won 23 straight preseason games.
Yeah, I saw that. It was like something crazy. Yeah.
What does that what does that matter in the whole grand scheme of things? Like if you're not making it to the championship, it really doesn't matter what you do in preseason.
Right.
I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I normally did pretty well in preseason, and didn't turn out well for me. So it tells you how much preseason shows. I mean, there's certain skill positions that, might find a hidden talent. I think, was it Victor Cruz? I saw something the other day. They were showing a clip of his preseason, and Rex Ryan
went crazy.
Like, he's like, you better keep that number 3, because if you don't, I'm going to sign him. And it's so wide receivers, DBs, positions like that where, there's a lot of unknowns, because most of the time when you get a QB, like, what he is. Like, there's not a lot that you're going to change from the time you get him to the first game he goes in. Like, there might be little tweaks here and there, but the way he throws and the way he does stuff is kind of how he's wired. The other positions are more, I think, coachable with more technique and stuff like that. Like a DB is more coachable than, let's say, a quarterback, because it's all footwork. I mean, it's easier to change footwork than it is a throwing motion.
Right. Yeah, all right, man, but I ain't going to hold y'all too much longer, man. Greg, I appreciate you coming on. Tyler, man, I appreciate you coming on with my guy, Greg, and just hearing stories about how I used to pick him off in practice. I appreciate all the insight you dropped on everybody in the chat. Had a lot of questions. They had even more questions, but I was answering more of the super chat.
The chat is real spicy tonight, by the way. It is. There's a lot of tension going on right now in the chat.
I see it. It's hard, like, because it's like trying to focus on, like, okay, I'm asking these questions, and then I see this, and it's like, this motherfucker sucks, and it's like, damn.
No, this is the first time I really, like, obviously I'm usually answering questions or listening to you, but Tyler's talking, and I'm over here looking at the chat, and there's a lot going on over here.
Yeah, and a lot of times, so I do a morning show, right? And this morning, I did a show, and I mean, we had, I had like over 600 people in there, like 650 people. And it was just like going nonstop of just wild. And I'm trying to like keep my train of thought while I'm seeing all this crazy stuff going on in the chat. It could get, I have to try not to like focus on it too much. Usually I look into the camera here, so that keeps me kind of focused on that as opposed to the chat. But yeah, it gets a little crazy. But anyways, appreciate y'all, man. We're going to end this show now. And everybody in the chat, man, y'all know, tune into the morning show. I'll see y'all tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, 6:30 a.m. Pacific time. But yeah, man, I'll see y'all then. Peace.
Appreciate you guys.
See you guys.